Alrighty. Well, we have a trio of coaches, course coaches. We've got Coach Tamiko. We've got Coach Marilyn. But guess what? We have not heard from Coach Bree coming up right now on the Rise to the Top podcast. And welcome, my friends, to the Rise to the Top podcast. It's your great and good friend, David Siteman Garland, a.k.a. DSG. And we're going west, young man, young lady, today, as we're going to be talking with Bree Noble. Hello, Coach Bree. How are you?
Hello, I'm great.
And coming at us now, where are you coming at us from today?
I live in California right now. I live in Central California near Yosemite National Park, so in the mountains. But I was just telling David we're moving back to Southern California this summer.
Moving to Southern California. So if that sounds good to you, that sounds really good to me right now. I got to be honest here. But as we've started here in St. Louis, the humidity is only at 437%.
Oh, Lord.
So Bree, let's talk a little bit about this before. And actually, we've had a conversation before. You and I, we've talked about your business a little bit and things like that. But just, we're going to talk a lot about coaching today. We're going to talk a lot about business today. But just to give people a quick synopsis, tell everyone a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I started out working with musicians. I'm a musician myself, and I work with female musicians in my Female Musician Academy to help them understand that they're actual entrepreneurs and business people, and that they need to understand how to market themselves and how to become strong business people and leaders and not rely on other people to create their career as a musician. So that was kind of
Very
how
cool.
I got my start. And, in order to build that business, I had a ton of coaching and took, obviously I took Create Awesome online courses. So that was what I learned to create the business that I have. And I'm so excited to be able to then share all that knowledge in the Accelerator program.
Yeah, and it's interesting is that people have now, if they've heard the last two episodes before this one, this is episode 66, I believe, but on episode 65 and 64, all our coaches that we have as part of Create Awesome online courses in the Accelerator program, you guys all have very different personalities. You have different backgrounds. You've got different philosophies, different things with that. And I'm curious for you, when you first saw the coaching call that we put out earlier this year for the Accelerator program, so we said, listen, we're going to be doing a new coaching program, and we're going to be reaching out to successful Create Awesome online courses students, and we're going to find people that have not only had success with their own courses, but want to come on and coach and mentor others to be successful as well as part of this program. And you jumped at it. What got you excited about getting involved with the Accelerator?
Well, number one, it was that I was doing something similar in my own academy, and that I absolutely love group coaching. I just think it's the coolest experience to help people on a bit of a one-on-one level as far as I am answering their questions directly. But then there's, the other people in the group that are encouraging them and giving them, advice. And of course, I generally know more than them, or they wouldn't be my students. I have a lot more experience, but to get their perspectives. And also sometimes, they can say, oh, I tried this and, this is what happened. And it just really gives the person that's getting the advice, making them feel like they're not just out there on a limb, right? There's other people kind of in their corner. And so that's one reason I love group coaching. And then the other reason, and I told you this when we interviewed, is that I just love David's brand because I've taken actually several courses about creating courses, and this is my favorite one because it's not so stuffy and educational, and you have a very laid back style that is not stilted, and it makes things fun, but you're also very look, this is step by step. And that's another big one too. In my program, I teach that, there is one step-by-step way to do things, and you can do other things, but trust me, this is the fastest way to get to the finish line. And that's what I love about Create Awesome online courses, is that we have a system and all you need to do is follow it and you will reach the finish line. It might not look the exact same as everybody else. And that's what the Accelerator is for. It's to help you with your personal little pitfalls along the way, but we still have a system that's the backbone.
Yeah. And it's interesting because a lot of times, and we did this inside of Create Awesome Online courses as well. Like there's certain points where you have to choose a path based on you, right? Like choose a path based on your personality and your situation. But you're right. The material is the same for everyone inside of a step-by-step program, right? And this is if you're listening to this, if you're creating a course or whatever it might be, and realize that people though will apply it, I guess the best way to kind of describe it is in different ways. Do you know what I mean? And some people are different than others on how they do it. So for example, the way that I operate, if I'm given something step by step, I just do it. I don't think about it. I don't sit in there and talk myself out of it. I don't say, well, he told me or she told me to do X, I'm going to do Y. I don't do those things. I just go for it. That's my approach that I have to it. And some other people are like that as well. But there's also a lot of other people on the different spectrums of that they need help in different ways, more personalized, more for them. And also, I guess it's just kind of knowing that someone cares about your individual situation, even though we're applying the same information, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And I love that, with you have the 4 different launching methods, right? And the cool thing about being a coach is that I've done all 4 of those.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
So it's not like I can be like, I can only help you with webinars. You know what I mean? To have somebody that's there that's actually done all 4 and can say, okay, I think this one, if you're leaning toward this one, I think it really fits your personality for this reason, or maybe I'm steering you a little bit away from this one. Not that I'm going to tell you not to do it, but here's why, and here's my experience. And just to have that second brain in the room to help people make decisions is a game changer, I think, because sometimes we get so stuck in our own head, we're in our own bubble, and we can only see things one way. And to have a person that's had experience in all this stuff and say, here's my take on it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And what's also leads to this too is that at this point, we've got a bunch of things going on in Accelerator. So this episode is airing on, let me get my calendar out here, Bree. I got to get my official calendar so we know what's going on, right? This episode is airing for the first time on Tuesday, June 4th. Now, our first round of our 90 days of Accelerator program wraps up about, I think it's, let me see here.
June 13th.
June 13th.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're very close to the finish line here. We're recording this about a week before we release it. So you can do the math, carry the 2, divide by 4, add 53. You get the idea, right? About where we're at here. And so we're actually in an interesting point right now, Bree, is that you've got new accelerators that are starting as we're starting to do more enrollments. And by the way, go to createawesomeonlinecourses.com/accelerator if you're interested, and you'll either see a wait list or a way that you can apply depending on what we have going on. But we're in an interesting spot here, Bree, is that, your accelerator students that are in there right now are kind of on the final, is the final few holes of the golf, if you will. And we also are going to have some new folks starting. And I want to ask 2 questions. First of all, with your group now, has there anything that has surprised you?
I don't know about surprise me, but one thing that I think it made me say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad they're an accelerator, is I had one student who completely pivoted on week 3. And had she not been in this program, she might have gone all the way down the path and created her course and launched and everything, and realized that was the audience she really didn't even want to be working with. She had decided she wanted to be a lot more niche and not work with beginners to begin with, because she wanted to do higher level stuff. Mm-hmm. And, she'd already kind of built this audience with the beginners, and she said, I'm just kind of bored with doing this, or it's not what I feel like doing right now. And so we figured out a way that she could niche it down. And I'm just so glad that she figured that out before she had gone the whole way. And then it's like, oh, I'll just scrap this whole thing, even though I put this 3 months into doing this work. We figured it out before it had all gone down.
Yeah, and it's interesting because what we've seen in Accelerator, and also coming up in this new version as well that we have coming, the newest group that's coming into it as well, is that, some people, there's kind of 3 categories. Some people know exactly what they want to do, exactly what they want their course to be on, exactly who their target market is to a T, right? Some people do not. Maybe it's between a few, maybe it's trying to narrow it down, maybe I've just got ideas in my head and I need a coach and a mentorship to kind of bring that out of me, right? That's number 2. But number 3, which is always the interesting one as well, is people that think they know until they start diving in and realize, oh my God, I just avoided a massive problem by not identifying the right audience, right? And like, that's a really interesting category of person because without the coaching and mentorship, sometimes you don't know that until, you can figure it out, but it might be 6 months from now, right? And, you end up waking up every day and saying, I don't want to work with this group or I don't want to do this topic, right? But being able to work on that in there and realize like how specific people need to get. I think that's the big thing is getting people more and more specific. Because I think that's, again, continue to what I've seen going back to 2013. That's the struggle that people have because it sounds so easy, but it's not, is really defining that target audience and who you really want to work with.
Yeah. And I think that, in my training in Create Awesome Online courses where I talk about building a Facebook group, I talk about this, and this is something you can also do in your emails, is that if you ask the right questions to find out the people that you're attracting, what they're struggling with, then okay, this is what the kind of person I'm working with. And do I want to be answering these questions?
Yes.
Do I want to be helping them with this, or am I not attracting the right people? And it's so important to figure that out before you go down the road.
Right. And also, what's interesting is that, and this is a good and bad thing at the same time, it's your choice to a certain degree, right? Like, meaning like you can decide, hey, listen, I attracted the wrong people. I'm going to still work with them, right? Or you can adjust and say, you know what, I want to move into a different market or whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, it's going to end up being your choice. It's going to be the free content you put out. It's going to be the paid content you put out. It's going to be how your brand is positioned. And it's interesting that a lot of people, the old school method, which is way gone now, right, is you kind of build the random audience and then figure out what they want. And that gives me like heart palpitations thinking about that, because imagine the amount of time and the money and the effort that had to be spent on that to spit content out and do things to just try to figure it out. Do you know what I mean? And I just don't think that that's necessary anymore. I mean, that was kind of internet 1.0, as people would kind of just start writing about whatever they felt like or making videos about whatever they felt like, and then eventually trying to figure out what to do. And I think that approach, while it could work, it's definitely the slowest, most difficult path, which is not my favorite path.
Oh my gosh, you back yourself into a corner and then you're stuck there, or you have to start all over.
Right, because I think some people, like some of the advice that scares me a little bit is like, I'm a huge believer, by the way, in asking questions and getting engagement and things like that and finding out what your audience really wants, right? But not letting them dictate your business. You dictate the business.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And that's one of the big things. I see that mistake though sometimes, like someone like, they'll get an audience and like survey, like, what do you want me to teach you about? Or what do you want to learn? And they end up teaching on something they don't know about or they're not into or whatever, because their audience asks. So that's something you really have to consider when you're building a brand online, Or
on the opposite end, something that you really want to teach.
No one
turns
cares.
out that's like over the head of your audience, or like, I remember when I was really excited about messenger bots and I was like, I want to teach my musicians this is going to be so great for them. And I got all excited about it and I like started pre-selling a course and I sold like 8 copies or something. But like, it was just way over their head. Like I was into it, but I had been into marketing for years now. And for them, they're like, I just want to find my first fan, so they're not going to be trying to figure out how to use messenger bots. So you have to find that middle ground.
Yeah. And I think it's also interesting too, over time, you start to realize where the skill sets are of your audience. Do you know what I mean? And like, where are they more beginner? Are they more advanced or more intermediate? I mean, I see that in the entrepreneurship world. There's people that cater to every type of person in the business world. Do you know what I mean? There's people that are like new to business, old to business, trying to scale up, trying to do this, trying to do that. Those are all really good niches because, people fall in those categories, but you attract what you put out there for sure, And yep. I'm curious too. I'm going to ask you a difficult question that I did not ask anyone else. You ready for it, Bree?
Okay.
You like that? You like how I preface it too?
Yeah.
So you can get really stressed out before I answer it. So you're finishing up this amazing group in Accelerator right now, and there's going to be new accelerators coming in, and we're going to have more accelerators coming in after that. And again, this is a program where whenever we get spots with coaches, we're going to be opening up Accelerator. If you want to commit and know that you can make more progress in the next 90 days than you have in the previous 3 years combined, it's a program for you for sure, right? Now, you're going to have a new group soon of Accelerator students that are going to be coming in. Is there anything that you've learned from kind of your first group, any kind of knowledge or pitfalls or things that you're going to immediately pass on to the second group? Or is it going to be more, we don't really know what we're going to have yet until we get started? Well,
I think one thing I've learned is to really hone in on what try to figure out from the beginning what the pitfalls of each student are going to be. And by asking them the questions, because for some student, it might be tech. It might just be like, that is the thing that is going to stop them. And, some people, it might be copy. Like, I just don't know how to write good headlines. And so, being able to provide resources for them at the beginning versus them getting 4 or 5 weeks down and, they're still writing Facebook ads that aren't converting because they don't know how to write copy to their audience. So I think for me this time, it's going to be like, I need to do my own personal analysis on each student from on the very first day and be like, clearly this person's major pitfall is going to be this. What can I provide them so we don't get 4 weeks from now and we're still having the same problem? Because, 12 weeks sounds like a long time from the beginning, but once you get into it, you're like, oh my gosh, in this time period, I need to build my audience, I need to create my course, and I need to launch, because that's what we want for all of them, because that's going to make them be so successful, because then they're going to have this thing already built and then they can just tweak it and, make very minor changes, but not feel like you have this monumental task in front of you afterward. And so, getting them off on the right foot from the beginning is definitely going to be my biggest thing for the next one. So I don't waste any time, like not even a shred of time.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And exactly, that's the entire purpose of the program, is to accelerate. I mean, just like the name says, is because we're trying to compact, lots of things into a 90-day win sprint, right? And it's amazing what people can accomplish. And that's one of the biggest things that we've heard is like people saying, this is stuff that I've been thinking about for years or working on for a long time. Now I'm able to get the ball rolling down the hill. That's the entire purpose of that first launch, of getting the ball rolling down the hill and actually being, focused moving forward. And that's interesting that you mentioned that I definitely see, I don't want to call them stereotypes, but types of people, and knowing where their pitfalls might be, right? So for example, you just mentioned a really good one was the tech person, right? So someone that gets really stressed out about tech, a lot of times that's going to be, number one, talking off a ledge. Number two, it's going to be taking action and actually getting it done, meaning the technology. And number three, teaching someone to fish, meaning like, how do you deal with tech problems in the future so they know what to do and they don't just panic and throw their hands up, right? That's kind of like one person. And then another one that's interesting, Bree, and I know we work with this too, is the shiny red object syndrome. And that's might be one of the biggest ones that we see, is folks where they have the plan, they have the coaching, they have everything, but it's like, but what about this? What about that? How do you deal with shiny red object syndrome?
Well, luckily, if they're in my pod, I am so used to this because musicians are all about this.
Yes.
Because we're creatives. And so I have like an archetype in my academy called the scattered creative. And so I've kind of learned to work with them, and I've learned to spot this immediately and like nip it in the bud. And it still comes up because it's just their nature. And I have some of this nature myself. And so, when I see it rearing its ugly head, I'm like, look, all these other ideas are enemies. You need to be aware of them. You need to treat them like hostile and focus on only these things that you're focused on that we talked about on our last call that are your accountability things. And that's it. And so that's definitely one of the things. And to your previous question, another thing that came up in my mind is I will have them in the very, very beginning be able to articulate to me what is the promise of their course and what is the transformation that it creates. And for me this time, I waited a few weeks to do that. And I thought, I just kind of assumed that everybody had already worked through that because it's very, very clear from the course that we need to do that in the beginning. But I think some people still hadn't really worked that out to the nitty gritty where they could actually articulate it, write it down, and deliver it. So I actually made my people come on as homework one time and deliver that to everybody else in a very succinct fashion. And I think once we did that, it really helped people move forward much faster because they felt like, okay, now I have a springboard. I know exactly where I'm going from here.
Right. Because then it's all about execution. Once you get that foundation, and foundation, is oftentimes the most difficult thing. It really is, because that's where everything else is very, because you have to make a lot of choice there about like who you want to, what you want to do and what you want to be known for, right? And what you're going to commit to. And I think that's what holds people up. And then from there, it's like avoiding distractions and getting stuff done. That's really a big thing. And you can't, you as a coach, you can't go in there and literally like block sites on people's computer and put horse blinders on them, even though you probably want to sometimes, right?
Right. Don't let them look at other people's Facebook ads that are distracting them to come to this webinar and that webinar. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Because then a lot of times
I wish I could.
It's like having a straight course or like a windy course and just staying on that path. And like that a lot of times can be so difficult for people, especially if you're creative. Because I feel like creative all the time, it's like, well, I want to try this, or my unique situation is that, so I want to do this. And it's just trying to keep people on track, you know?
Yep. And I had some people, no matter how much I would say it, sometimes they'd still get off. But then one day, one of the people in my pod just came and said, you know what? I just keep hearing David in my head saying, follow the steps, do the steps. You can always change it later, but the first time you do the steps. And so I love that they're getting that ingrained over time, and it's gotten much less and less the shiny red ball syndrome.
That's good. I'm like an annoying flea in everyone's ear.
Yeah.
That's my goal. I'm knocking it all down for your success, my friends, coming up. That's one of the key things. Now, also, I'm just curious in your group, and we've talked about this on some trainings and some things that I've done lately, is that you actually had a fair amount in your group that did not have an email list yet. Is that correct? When they came in?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So they had one that they built that it was not very targeted. So they basically started over.
Okay. And I'm curious, and I've talked about this on some trainings and some webinars and things too, but I'm just curious, for you, where have you seen the greatest, what strategies have people put into place that have worked the best for building their email list the quickest?
I would say, well, of course, Facebook ads, because that's always the quickest, assuming you can get your messaging right. Definitely had a student that's, building at least 10, 20 people a day on Facebook ads. But Facebook groups has been a big one. And I don't know if that's just because that was my area of training, but several of them already had Facebook groups when we started. And they just started getting more involved in their group and following the strategies that I told them of getting those people onto their list. Because a lot of them had these groups, but then it was just kind of this totally other separate thing from their list. So it's bringing all those people over into one place.
Okay, interesting. And so I know you're a big proponent of Facebook groups. You have a thriving Facebook group. You taught, in fact, inside of Create Awesome Online Courses, one of our trainings on free Facebook groups. Are you still seeing those now as being a very effective? What do you see those as being very effective for you?
They're only effective if you are really on top of it. I mean, I personally have a community manager that manages mine, and I would never do one unless you were willing to put in the time or you had someone to manage it for you, because it can become just like a dumping ground for crap. It needs to be a really managed place and encouraging place, and we can't let any negativity and get into there. But for me, it's just a place to have great conversations, to be able to do little trainings and build that know, like, and trust factor easier, because they actually can sometimes see you. If you're doing Facebook Lives, if you're, in there daily actually commenting on stuff, they feel a little bit more connected to you than they can through email. And that's why I like it. But you really have to be willing to dedicate some time or money to a Facebook group if it's going to work for you. But that's true of any traffic strategy.
Yeah, and we talk about that inside of Create Awesome Online Courses and the Accelerator program, of course, is that, you don't want to choose every traffic strategy under the sun. We give a wide gamut of traffic strategies, some that are paid, some that are free, a wide variety, some that take more time, some that are more long-term, some are more short-term, some are more you, some are more money. Do you know what I mean? Different things. But the key is just choosing one or two at a time, knowing that your personality. And that's one of the key things. I have always people saying, like, what list building strategy you want to use or do. And it's like, listen, there's a lot of individualized stuff that goes into this. And what we've seen in the Accelerator program is that a lot of times having your expert advice and then going fast too, because there's nothing faster than Facebook ads, but there also could be a little bit tricky as well.
Yeah. I mean, you can really lose money if you don't know how to write your copy well. And I definitely saw, in my Accelerator group, without coaching, they could have really wasted a lot of money and frustration and time and given up on Facebook ads because their messaging just wasn't quite right, or they kind of thought, oh, the image will just sell it. I don't need to put any copy there. And so they weren't really speaking to their audience. Maybe they got them to stop scrolling with the image, but it didn't say anything to them that made them go to that next step of clicking.
That makes perfect sense. So Bree, on the way out here, thank you so much for the insights. Wide variety of conversations today, talking about, coaching and talking about this model and all this kind of stuff that's going on. For on the way out, if anyone is interested in Accelerator program, what would you say to them if they're thinking about putting an application or putting their name on the wait list if we're not doing applications right now?
I would say that the biggest help with Accelerator, besides all the coaching that you get and stuff, is the accountability. And no matter how much you think you can coach yourself and you can, keep yourself accountable, there's nothing like having to show up on a call every week and, say what you did or say what you didn't do. And so another thing, is that, and I know Marilyn mentioned this, and this really caught me, when you're in a group, you can be a lot more brave and do things that you would never do on your own because you see other people doing it and it's like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. So just that community and that accountability is really priceless, and it's not something that you can reproduce on your own.
Love it. Now, on the way out too, if people want to check out your brand and you've got all kinds of great stuff there for musicians and things like that, where's the best place they can go check it out?
They can go to BreeNoble.com. That's BreeNoble, by the way, not spelled like the cheese. And you can also go to FemaleMusicianAcademy.com and check that out.
Awesome. And we'll link those up on the show notes on therisetop.com here. This is episode 66. So thank you so much, Bree. And by the way, good luck with the move that's going to be happening here later this summer.
Oh, thank you. I don't want to think about it. Too much work.
This is the Bree Noble, stressed out over the move, but giving brilliant coaching advice here today on the Rise Up podcast. And remember, folks, again, the link, createawesomeonlinecourses.com/accelerator if you want to find out more information about the Accelerator program. And by the way, if you are interested in Create Awesome Online Courses and you want to join the #1 program in the world for showing you how to create, promote, and profit from your own online course, create your dream business, all that good stuff, go to createawesomeonlinecourses.com/unlock for a special offer. All right. I will see you next time, my friends. It's been David Siteman Garland here on the Rise Up podcast. And remember, if you want some fluff, you know what to do. Go pet a bunny.
Hello, my name's Aviva. We're in Daddy's office. Yeah, Daddy's office.
Aviva,
and today we're going to Westwood or not?
Well, no, not today. We're not going to Westwood
and today we're going outside to eat dinner. Yeah, outside. Yeah, and I'm in Daddy's office. It's fun. We have so much fun. Okay, and I got so much fun eating dinner outside. It's going to be really, 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 really fun. Yeah, so much fun. Yeah, so much fun. Yeah, so much fun.
You say bye-bye?
No, not yet.
No, you got more to say?
Yes, and cow. So it's going to be so much fun eating. So much fun. So much fun. Yeah, and it's going to be so much fun down outside to eat. Yeah, really fun. It's so much fun. Yeah, really fun. Yeah, it will be really fun. Yeah, so much fun. Yeah, so much fun. So much fun. And it's great. And I love when my mom.
All right, can you say bye-bye?
No.
Right.
And I still like to play on Daddy's computer.
All right, you say bye-bye.
No!
Yeah.
I'll keep doing it. And then I say, and then I'll do this. And then, bye!
All right, good.
Hello, my name is Viva. We're in Daddy's office. Yeah, Daddy's office. We're going to the pool to swim. And if I'm done, I get dry off. Yeah, and if I don't want to dry off, that means I can shake the water off. And if I want to stay in, I'll stay in. And if I want to get out and play ping pong, I will. Or if I want to play on the lawn.
Hey. How are your swimming lessons been going?
It's going good.
Who's your teacher?
Miss Dewey.
And what's your favorite thing that you do?
Rolling Rocket. I like doing rolling rockets.
What's a rolling rocket?
You put your hands up, and then you dive down. And then I swim to Miss Julie, and then we swim to the top dock.
To top dock?
Yeah.
What's a top dock?
A top dock's where I can reach and stand.
Oh, okay.
And then sometimes we do our push-offs.
What's a push-off?
Like, boom, push your feet off and swim to Miss Julie. And now I love doing swimming lessons. I wish they'll stop in one day.
And what, are you excited for camp this summer?
Yes!
That's going to be fun, right?
Yes!
You can see all your friends.
Yes!
And camp starts very soon, right?
Yes!
Okay. What else do you want to talk about?
The weather.
Yeah, how's the weather?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's sunny, I think.
It's kind of, well, it's a little sunny. It's a little cloudy, huh?
Yeah, and it's a little windy.
It's a little windy? Okay.
And grass green. And also, I like on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I go to Paws and Nana.
Yeah, that's true.
But now we're switching. I'm going to Nana's on Tuesday, Paws on Thursday.
Oh, wow. It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, it will. And also, I can talk more.
Yeah, you talk a little bit more.
Okay, and then, Daddy says I can talk more, so that's okay. So, if I always are hungry and whisper, we can go in and eat a snack or something. Or we can pack a snack with us.
Good idea. Let's go get a snack to bring with us, okay?
And
Say
bye.
Say bye-bye.
Now, can we listen it
Yes.
on